There's been a lot of Misfits Boxing over the last year. Some fights and some events definitely better than others. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to rank every single Misfits Boxing event from Misfits 1 to Misfits 8. Now, you might be saying, Logan, why don't you wait until the Prime card comes out to do this list? Then there's 10 Misfits events. Well, I will update this video when that card comes out, but let's be honest, the Prime card's already number 1. And there's only been 3 events so far announced for it. But let's be honest, guys, Misfits 10 is the best YouTube boxing event of all time. I mean, just look at the card already. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get into ranking the top 8 Misfits boxing events. Coming up dead last is Misfits 006. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Misfits 6. This was quite the disappointing card, to say the least. I remember when this event got announced, and just the main event did not get me hyped at all. I don't think JMX personally has enough draw in any way to be on the main event of a card. Same with Le'Veon Bell. I understand that that's more of an American thing to like and watch for Le'Veon Bell, but, you know, I'm talking from my experience here. In the UK, no one knew who he really was. At all. There was really barely anyone in attendance, and if you want to talk about the fights themselves, I mean, this was not the best card for that. You had some standout moments like OJ Rose versus Kimbo Slice Jr., which was a good fight, and the Minicon versus Jake the Viking, which was also a very good fight for influencer boxing, but then you had shit like Chase Demore, ground and pounding Stevie Knight, Uncle Pizza and Yuddy Gang putting on probably the second most boring fight in influencer boxing history. We'll get onto that in a minute. And a lackluster main event, honestly. So that's why Misfits 6 is number 8. The second worst Misfits boxing event, by far in my opinion, is Misfits 002. Yes, Misfits 2, the second event they ever put on, wasn't that great. It was pretty bad. The main event, Jace Windler vs. Churdleys, was pretty dead. Churdleys died in like 3 nanoseconds. There wasn't really any other good fights on the card apart from Slim vs. Ryan Taylor, which really should have been the main event. Every other card in the fight though, like Astrid Wet vs. Keeley, like, really? Did anyone care about Halal Ham vs. DTG? Anyone? No, okay. Next up on the list, ranking just above those two, is Misfits 8, the most recent Misfits boxing event. I'm gonna be real with you guys. Survivor Tag on paper might sound cool, but it's not. It's so boring, and it's pretty dead. You see, when you think about it, it's 4 rounds, and there's 4 guys fighting, but there's only 2 guys fighting at once. So what this means is basically it's a boxing match, except you have a round off every other round. So basically each fighter was only in the ring for roughly 2 rounds, which basically makes this a 2-round fight worth of damage. This was boring as hell. I mean, it wasn't that boring, to be fair, but it was pretty damn boring. The card was also pretty dead. Tell me why half the card just pulled out a week before the event. Like, there were so many pullouts that it was kind of ridiculous. Paul Bamba vs. AT didn't go through. So many fights didn't go through. Chase Demore had to fight Alan Belcher, which is fucking crazy. The whole event was just a bit of shambles, but there were some positives in it, like the Dean the Great and Waleed Shark tag team match. That was pretty cool. That was a highlight of the event and really should have been the main event. But as it stands, Misfits 008 isn't that great. When I started working on this video, I thought Misfits 5 would be for sure at the bottom, but then I really thought about it, and it's pretty decent, you know. There were some good fights on it. Jay Swindler vs. Nick LeMayo, that was a really good fight, surprisingly. Everyone thought Jay Swindler would just go out there and smoke Nick LeMayo, but Nick LeMayo went in there and did bits. It was crazy. Some people even thought he got robbed, me included, by the way. Tempo Arts made his debut, which was really good. Kenny vs. Ashley Raksu was a good fight and really showed what Kenny can't do in certain situations and how good Raksu really is. In my opinion, actually, this was sort of like the perfect filler card for Misfits. You know how Misfits are now leaning more in towards the whole idea of the named cards are the main ones, like the Prime card, and that every other Misfits is just kind of like a filler card that's not really meant to be taken too seriously, similar to the upcoming Misfits 9 with Idris Virgo. This was the ideal one of them, although this event suffers from one stinky turd, and that is Halal Ham versus Ginty. I hated watching this. This was awful. This was by far the most boring fight Misfits has ever put on. Halal Ham didn't want to engage. Ginty didn't want to engage. It was 2 people who didn't want to fight each other in a fight. It was so bad and lackluster, and they should be ashamed of themselves for it, honestly. At the halfway mark here, we've got Misfits 3. All I have to say is one thing about this. Greg Hardy versus Ian Rockman Jr. Banging fight. Dean the Great versus Waleed Sharks 1. Banger fight. Chase Moore versus Josh Bruckner. Pretty fucking funny. Okay, now we're on to the big boys. We're left with just KSI fight events now. And honestly, as much as I hate to say it, next up, the lowest rated, in my opinion, KSI event is Misfits 7, KSI vs Joe Fournier. Much as I'd love to say the fight where KSI bangs out a pro boxer who's 9-0 is such a great event, it's really not. There were 3 good fights in this whole card, and I mean that, only 3. And that's DK Money vs Virus, which is only good because of how the fight actually went. The 2 people in the fight I didn't give a fuck about beforehand, but the fight itself, very good. Deji vs Swarms, which was a pretty decent fight, to be fair. And Salt Papi vs Anthony Taylor. Apart from the main KSI fight, that was it. They were the only decent fights on the whole card. And unfortunately, the whole event was completely overshadowed when KSI threw an accidental elbow to knock out Joe Fournier. Now, this doesn't mean KSI wasn't going to knock out Joe Fournier. He already had him hurt, and then KSI hit him with an elbow by accident in the clinch, which knocked him out. Now, it takes a lot of power to be able to knock someone out clean like that with an elbow. But obviously, it's still fucking illegal. So, the fight was ruled a no contest due to accidental elbow, and KSI didn't technically pick up the win. Which is just, ugh. So which Misfits event was it, ladies and gentlemen? Was it Misfits 1 or was it Misfits 4, which is the best official Misfits boxing card of all time? Well, in second place is Misfits 1. I hate to say it, but Misfits 1 is the number 2 on this list. Now, you might be thinking, but Logan, it was the original Misfits card. It had it all. But I'm here to tell you, it didn't really have it all. It had its highlights. Deji winning was a huge highlight. KSI getting 2 dubs in one night, huge highlight. Other shit, huge highlight. But what you gotta remember is that there was just a few things that were like, meh, that kept it behind the greatness of Misfits 4. For example, KSI's original opponent Alex Wasabi pulled out, and so did Ivan Nikolov. Which means KSI had to fight 2 lambs to the slaughter, basically. And the final event, the main event, was just kind of ruined by Pineda, who let the bright lights get to him. And yeah, he managed to deal with it and overcome it in future Misfits events like 4 and 5. However, at the time, he just couldn't handle the bright lights and all them people watching, and he panicked and went into panic mode and just started doing some weird shit in that fight. But there were some other standout fights. Face Sensei versus Kenny, but that ended in a robbery. You see what I'm saying here? Every fight was good, but there was just a little something that held it back. Apart from Deji's fight, that fight was perfect. And this, of course, leads on to Misfits 4 being the number 1 best Misfits boxing event of all time so far, up to yet. And honestly, you can't really compete with it. KSI's insane knockout on temper, Josh Bruckner getting banged out by Salt Papi like that, truly starting the Salt Papi hype train, Anthony Taylor and Idris Virgo starting off the card, KSI's last 2 opponents, Swarms and Pineda, both getting their redemption, which is crazy. This card was just too perfect. I mean, what else do you want from a boxing card, honestly? Seriously, what the hell else do you want? This shit was perfect. Alright geezers, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments how you would rank the Misfits boxing events from 1 to 8 so far, or if this is in the future and Misfits 9 or 10 are out, let me know how you'd rank them on this list as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe as well, and all that good beeswax. Follow me on Instagram while you're at it, at Logan_fighting or at LoganHallum6, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.